Every minute I'm thinking of Shane and Josh. I close my eyes and I can see them in my mind all the time. I know that they're still in that cell and they don't know when they're going to get out, and they're two beautiful people, two innocent people that don't deserve to be there and should never have been there in the first place. I need you to help me to free Shane and Josh.
I was completely devastated. I mean, even when I think about it now, it was like, if you can imagine the worst news of your life, that was that piece of news right there.
I can't help but wonder, are they okay? Are they alive? I mean, that was my biggest fear, is, are they alive?
We don't know when we're going to see them. We don't know when they're released. This was the worst day of my life.
Sarah, Shane, and Josh, each individually, are really unique and remarkable people.
Shane is an extraordinary photojournalist. He's done work for The Nation, for Mother Jones, for New American Media Online, the Christian Science Monitor. He also completed a documentary on Darfur. He's very compassionate, he's very kind. He's made it his life's work to try to help people that need help. I'm extremely proud of my son, Shane.
I'm a very proud mother of Josh, and there's no question here.
And I would recommend that people stand around this side, because to build up the back, you need to taper it in like a pyramid.
He was a leader in Aprovecho, the sustainable living community, where he ran the internship program for ecological forestry and organic farming. In spring semester 2009, he was helping these 30 undergraduate American students study health service in India, and then China, and then in South Africa.
Well, Josh is my younger brother, and he's somebody who's always thinking about other people. He's somebody who's keenly aware of the interconnected nature of all people throughout the world.
I've always been in awe of my daughter. I've watched her, through her life, do the most remarkable things. She started out doing work with indigenous women in Chiapas, Mexico. When the war broke out in Iraq, she was doing direct action to stop the war. And as soon as she heard about Katrina, she basically jumped in a car, joined a caravan of people that were going to help there.
Josh, Shane, and Sarah, these are really global citizens.
In 2008, Shane and Sarah moved to Damascus, Syria. Shane wanted to be based in the Middle East to continue his photojournalism. Sarah wanted to teach English.
Shane's love for the Middle East and his passion for learning about the diverse cultures in the region was something that attracted me to him from the beginning. I found a job teaching in Damascus to Iraqi and Palestinian refugees. It was life-transforming in so many ways. Palestinians, Syrians, Iraqis became our family, and it was one of the best years of my life.
Keep going with the moving.
Shane and Sarah invited Josh to Damascus. They wanted him to see what was going on there.
Josh was visiting, and Sean was living with them for the summer. They'd been friends before, of course, but that's how the four of them decided to go together. Shane had just finished a deadline on a story. Sarah had a week off for a vacation. They wanted to find a really beautiful place to go to.
Their friends in Damascus told them Iraqi Kurdistan is one of the most beautiful places on earth. You can just go online and see all these great tours they have. Germans, Europeans of all sorts flocking to the area.
I've traveled with Shane myself. He's a very careful traveler. He doesn't take risks, especially when he's in the company of other people.
We were in Salamania for a couple of days. We went to a museum and we were kind of touring around the city. We asked our hotel manager for a good place to go hiking, and he recommended Ahmedawa, which is a local tourist site, very popular with Westerners and with local Kurdish families. He had a picture of the waterfall on the desk. Sean really wanted to go with us to the waterfall, but he was feeling ill. He had a fever, and he just decided to stay in the hotel, and he was going to meet us if he felt better the next day at the waterfall.
This last email from Sarah, this was on July 29th, so that, the next morning they got on a bus and went to the waterfall. And she said, "Hey Mama, so we're traveling. Actually, we're in northern Iraq. The Kurds in this area have been pro-American since 1991. No single American has been hurt on Kurdish territory, so don't worry. Tonight we're going camping. I miss you and love you tons. Sarah."
We arrived at Ahmedawa, the waterfall, by bus. We were really shocked by how many people were there. And there were just like hundreds and hundreds of people. And there were small restaurant stands, tea shops, and there were families with blankets spread out that were eating food and singing and playing games, and it was just like this really festive, amazing place. The next morning, we woke up early. We thought it would be nice to go for a hike, and there were several trails. So we asked this friendly tea salesman which trail would be good. And he pointed to one and said that was a good trail to take. And we said, "Are there any problems up there? Is it safe?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, sure, it's safe, no problem." So that's the one we chose. There was no fence, no flag, no indication of a border of any kind. We were on the trail for several hours. We just gotten a call from Sean, and he was on his way to the waterfall, so we knew we should head back soon. I looked up and I saw a soldier about 300 meters away from us, and he was holding a big gun, a rifle, and then he was motioning with his arm. He was doing like this for us to go further down the trail. So we kind of looked at each other and we were like, okay, it's just, an Iraqi soldier. It's not a big deal. We're not doing anything wrong. So we felt we had no choice but to follow his instructions, and we went farther down the trail when we saw another soldier. And this soldier motioned for us to come to him. So we stepped off of the trail and walked towards that soldier. And when he started speaking in Farsi, he said, "Iran," and pointed to the ground where we were standing. And then he pointed to the trail that we had been on, and he said, "Iraq." So according to that soldier, we did not enter Iran until he gestured for us to come off the trail into Iran. We wanted to turn around and go back, and we tried, and he wouldn't let us. He led us away from the waterfall until we met with a group of other soldiers, and they were standing around a small structure, like a shack. They took our things. They took all of our bags, and they looked at our passports, and they were like, "Oh, American." I mean, one of them spoke a little bit of English, and he was using his English dictionary, and Shane was trying to talk to them in Arabic. We were just telling them, we are from the waterfall, and we need to go back to Iraq. I was afraid, and we were all afraid. So Shane kept pleading with them, and he finally convinced them to let him make a phone call. And that was when Shane called Sean and told him what had happened, and that's when Sean immediately called the American Embassy in Baghdad.
I received a phone call from the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad on July 31st, 2009.
I heard on the other end of the phone, "We believe your son has become detained, possibly by Iranian authorities. We don't know anymore. We'll get back to you as soon as possible.
You know, I just sat down on the ground and started to cry and started to think about how I could get her out.
It wasn't until the fourth day that we arrived in Tehran, and even up to the last minute before we came to the doors of Evin prison, they told us we were going to an airport and they were going to put us on a plane and send us back home. And they blindfolded us and they tore us apart and threw us into different cells. And that first night I cried and screamed all night long. That's where I lived for the next month. They would do things like have me write pages and pages of what I was doing and my teaching in Damascus, and then they would look at it and they would tear it up and throw it in the trash and tell me to write it again. They had looked through all our emails and they had, looked at anything online that I told them about, my blog, my Skype account, and they didn't find anything. And I think it was clear to the people questioning us from the very beginning that we weren't spies. In the second month, suddenly I was pulled out of my cell and I heard Shane and Josh's voices, and I was led down the hallway, and I saw them, and it was an incredible moment. We just threw our arms around each other, and they told us we were getting free. They told us they were taking us to the airport, and really they put us in a car and we thought we were going, and they took us 2 blocks inside the prison complex to another part of the prison and took us out and blindfolded us, and before we knew it, we were back in our cells, 3 different cells again. I just completely lost control of myself and sort of got lost in this abyss of fear. I was just lying there in bed. I didn't eat. I just wanted to disappear, I just wanted to somehow just check out. And even in that most difficult moment, my mind would go back to my mother, and I just knew that I had to pick myself up and I had to go on and I had to be strong for her. I used to sit in my cell and think about all of the other innocent people that were inside cells and that were lost and forgotten. Even though this is something so wrong and senseless and cruel, we can come out of this better people, and that we can use the rest of our lives to do something good and constructive and right in the world. And I know that Shane and Josh feel the same way.
Shane and Josh shared a cell, and Sarah was alone by herself. The first time they came out of the solitary confinement and were able to share a meal together, the 3 of them, they had to do it blindfolded. What's the reason for that?
So this is the best drawing I could do of my cell. These are the 2 doors. As you can see, there's no handle on it because it only opens from the outside, and it has a small window with bars and a slot at the bottom. And the lights in the room are always on. And I would just wrap up a shirt around my eyes so I could sleep at night. It was about halfway through the 3rd month that we started to see a little bit of each other. Like maybe, at first it was a half an hour every 2 days, and then we begged and pleaded, and it was a half an hour every day. We would sit around the courtyard and we would hold hands and constantly talk about family. That was something we tried to do. Shane was so worried about his sisters. Josh was so worried about his brother. All you think about is family. Before prison, I knew I wanted to be with Shane for the rest of my life. In that first month in my cell, the worst month, I would, play our fantasy wedding. I would just play it over and over again in my head. And then once I just came out after a really bad day into the courtyard, and Shane was alone, and that had happened before that he asked Josh to stay in the cell only once, but we had kind of all planned it, and I was surprised, and I was like, "Where's Josh? What's going on?" And he said, "Well, there's something I really need to talk to you about." And I said, "Well, I'm having a really bad day, so I hope it's something good, because I can't, process right now, I just need to, have a good time and just be, good as much as possible." And he was like, "No, it's something good." We were sitting on this blanket, holding hands, with our arms around each other, and Shane just looked really serious. And he said, "Will you marry me?" I was so stunned, and so he said, "Is that a yes?" And I was like, yes, that's a yes. So really, from that day on, our marriage became a symbol of our future together. And Josh was very much a part of that, because Josh is going to be our best man. And Josh, he loves us so much, and we love him so much. The cruelty and the injustice of Shane and Josh's continued detention and imprisonment is especially poignant and painful because of who they are as people.
Elkins Park mother fighting to free her son. Cindy, Nora, and I decided to apply for visas on January 6th because the detention of Josh, Shane, and Sarah was lasting way longer than in our worst nightmare.
So all those long months, we waited for a phone call.
They were allowed to call home once. It was March 9th. We were not given any notice on that phone call.
He said, "Mom, this is Shane. I love you. I'm strong. I'm doing okay. How are you?" This was it. A minute in 9 months.
We kept thinking in February, in March, in April, we're going to Tehran. Well, our visas were not approved to May.
I come with an open heart. I come with a grateful heart, and I come with a mother's heart. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing my son and his two friends.
We were taken out of our cells and given civilian clothes. And then we got to the hotel, and they took us upstairs, and we opened the doors, and the three of them were standing there holding flowers, and it was just the most overwhelming thing. I mean, I just felt amazing, and I mean, really, it just hits me.
It was the most exciting moment of my life to see my son.
And I'm so excited. I throw my hands up and I go running towards him.
To see her after all that time, you actually touch her. It's like, I think mothers understand what I'm talking about. People that love other people know what I'm talking about. You hold them, and it becomes real again.
Yeah, I mean, being able to look into my mom's eyes was the greatest gift. Just knowing that she was seeing me and I was seeing her, and that we could hold each other and talk to each other. And it's something I'd just been dreaming and praying for so long. And it wasn't freedom, I'd always been dreaming for freedom, but it was the closest thing that we had experienced for a long time.
I wanted to fill him with as much hope as I could. I wanted to tell him all the work that's being done, all the people that are speaking out for him. I wanted to tell him how hard we're working. I wanted to instill him with the fact that he will be home. We never knew till we left the ground in Tehran that they weren't coming home with us. Seeing Shane put on the elevator, watching the doors close, not knowing when I'd see him again, was the hardest moment of my life. We left on May 21st, and we haven't heard one word.
One of the most difficult things is they have not been able to write letters home. We write every day.
Yep, people from everywhere write letters to the P.O. box for Shane, Sarah, and Josh. I just recently read about your imprisonment. I just wanted to let you know that we will be thinking of you. There are many who are working to change the situation. Keep your hopes up.
And then I always add my note at the top. I love you, Shane, Mom.
Free at last. After 410 days of imprisonment, Sarah Short arrived in the Gulf state of Oman, safely back in the arms of her mother. Sarah Short and her family know they're the lucky ones. There is no talk of bail or freedom for the other 2 American prisoners tonight, still in jail in Iran.
And so I got to see them that day in the outdoor courtyard. And when I told them, they both just started beaming. Josh was like jumping up and down. He was so happy, and he was laughing and just saying how great it was. And that's when Josh said he felt 1/3 free. And I said, I feel 1/3 free. I just told him that we would always be together, that nothing could separate us, and that every minute I was going to be fighting for them and demanding their freedom, and I was going to tell the world the pain and the suffering that they were in. And I said I wouldn't rest until it was done, and that I felt very strongly that they would be with me soon and that this was almost over.
I don't know what good this does for a great nation like Iran to continue in this mode. We need our kids home.
This is a human rights violation, an international law violation, against Islamic law, against Iranian law.
It is time for good deeds, mercy, and compassion. We are ready.
But I do believe that the fact that we are innocent and that the truth is on our side will help us to end this. I still believe in that. They're beautiful, curious, courageous human beings, but they're stuck in a small, cramped cell with very little sunlight. They have nothing but each other. Everything else has been taken away from them, everything that they love, and they don't deserve to be there 1 minute longer than I was, and they never deserved to be there in the first place. And it's wrong, and the whole world knows that it's wrong, and it has to end. Shane and Josh need to come home. They need to come home now.